Hello everybody, it's Kathy. I'm sorry it's been a few days, or actually more than a few days, a couple of weeks since I made a video for you, but today I was feeling rather nostalgic, and I know some of you who know me personally know that I'm very sentimental. So today we're going to make a pie crust. It's eventually going to become a raspberry pizza, which I'll show you in a later video. But to start with, we're going to make my mother's pie crust recipe. So we're starting out here in the bowl. I've already pre-sifted and measured 3 cups of all-purpose flour and a teaspoon and a half of, I actually have used Himalayan sea salt in this one, but you need a teaspoon and a half of salt. So 3 cups of sifted flour and 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And to that, I'm going to add 1 cup of butter-flavored Crisco. Now, if you do the math, it actually is 1/3 of a cup of Crisco. Of course, they didn't have butter-flavored Crisco when I was young and my mother was making pie crust, but I like the flavor that it adds to it. So the nostalgia part comes that I am using my mother's pastry blender. You can see here, it's very well worn, very well used. This was her bowl that she always used to make her pie crust in. And so every time I make a pie crust, I think of my mother. So you're going to use your pastry blender to cut in the Crisco. Just cutting it in. What you're looking to do is to incorporate the flour into the Crisco. You want the Crisco to be uniform in size, pea-shaped. The other thing to always remember, my mother always said you don't want to handle a pie crust with your bare hands. So I'll show you later what I use that keeps me from handling the dough. You don't want to rework the dough because it will make it tough. The beautiful part of a pie to me is that flaky crust that you can see the layers coming together. My mother made pies every summer, getting ready for the winter months and having prepared for, unexpected guests. She could pull a pie out of the freezer. She left me many 8-inch pie crusts, but I tend to use more of a 9-inch or a deep dish when I make most of my pies. Today we're going to use a pizza crust, or pizza pan, I apologize. We're going to make with a pizza pan. So lots of things stay the same and a lot of things get a little different. So I'm cutting this in. If you can see, it's kind of incorporating the flour into that butter-flavored Crisco and making things come together. Sorry, you can hear my dogs in the background again. I have Miss Dixie, my granddog, here today, and of course Miss Lola, the queen of everything, and Miss Dixie, the princess of quite a lot. One of my dear friends allowed me to come out and pick some of her beautiful red raspberries at her home, and so that's what we're going to do today, is use the red raspberries. Anyway, as you can see, this pie crust has come together pretty nicely, and now what we want to do is add ice cold water. It's going to take anywhere from 9 to 10 tablespoons because I've got enough in here to actually make 2 pizza crusts for fruit pizza. It gets you a little sweet, but not as much pie dough with each bite. So I have put a little ice in the water, and I'll start out with about half of what I think I'm going to need, so about 5 tablespoons, and then we'll add as we need. What you want to do is to bring the pie crust together. The ice water keeps the Crisco from melting. It keeps it, in a flaky form, to make the crust flaky. So putting that together, it's obviously not sticking together yet. So we're going to add a little more. We'll see how that works. See if we can put it together. It's always a good idea to make your crust and then put it in the refrigerator and let it chill. That also makes for a flaky crust. Looks like we're going to need maybe just a little bit more water. I always say add a little bit at a time because obviously you can't take it out. If you get too much in there, then it's not going to work as well. So we're going to add just a little bit more. We'll do 1 tablespoon at a time until we get the right consistency. If you wrote down the measurements or the ingredients you need per 1 crust, you're going to need 1/3 of a cup of butter flavored Crisco, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1 cup of all-purpose flour. So I'm making what would be considered enough for 3 crusts for for pie crust, but I'm going to use more because I'm using a pizza pan. So we're going to use about 1.5 crusts for each pie. Add a little bit more. And there I went against my own rules and I added 2 instead of just 1, but hopefully it will work out. My mother used to always use a fork. I find I can get it to incorporate better with a rubber spatula. I did take a short vacation, went to the West Coast, the Gulf Coast of Florida. Had a fabulous time. Spent some time, just relaxing and reminiscing about when I was a child and we would go there for vacation. It's changed dramatically, but as I said before, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I'm going to finish incorporating this and put it into the refrigerator and let it chill while I prepare the fruit, and I will be back to show you how I put the rest of this together.